Hello, and welcome to the Postpartum Years podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mary Ellen Cripp. I am a physical therapist and a pelvic health specialist. Joining me today is Kate Harris. She is a mom with a pretty interesting story of how her postpartum experience went. And I think this may be helpful for other women who will be going through this in the future, or maybe, just understanding that they're not alone in this, in what they had experienced. So I'd like to welcome Kate.
Thank you.
All righty. So Kate, let's start out with how did your pregnancy go? So we'll start there. Did you have any issues with your pregnancy?
So I was still throwing up until about 30, 31 weeks.
Ooh.
It was like morning sickness for me. So it was basically like I wake up, I need to throw up. And I have some medication that I have to take or before food. And so, like, usually when you're pregnant and you need to throw up, like, food helps, but I couldn't do that. And so sometimes I was like, hey, doctor, I threw up my meds. Like, what do I do? um, so that sucked. But basically, the rest of my pregnancy was great. Really stable health, like, really. Like, I've heard people get the kicks that, like, you can see the foot through the tummy. I didn't have that, but I still felt her kicking, and that was magical. And my boobs changed. Like, that was actually one of the first things where I thought I was pregnant, was because, like, they were sore or whatever. The
Okay,
air
yeah.
the areolas changed. They looked like they were preparing to produce milk. Segue later into other things.
How did your labor and delivery go?
The only time in my pregnancy that I had high blood pressure was when they decided to induce me. Work was crazy, and I was like, oh, I get to not be working anymore. Fabulous. I previously had cancer. I'm fine. It was thyroid cancer. It's the best cancer to have. So I had to have like regular ultrasounds. Like, first it was every like month, and then at the end it was every week. And they were looking at my blood pressure at the time, and it was high, and they like took it a couple times, and I hadn't been feeling penny kick as much. And so they're like, you're going to go have a baby. You're going to go to the hospital. So they tried to induce me, and they did, I think, 4 different things. They did the side attack. They did the balloon, and the hospital had just recovered from a hack. So
Mm.
like they, like, 2 days before, had gone off of paper records. They still didn't know where all their inventory was and stuff, and so they couldn't even find the balloon for, like, 24, 36 hours. I think there were 2 other things that they tried to do. At 50
Probably
hours.
Pitocin.
Yes. Yes, Pitocin. See, you know this, I don't. And at 50 hours of failed induced labor, they asked if I wanted to go to a C-section or if they wanted to try to break my water and then potentially wait some more hours and then potentially um, still need a C-section. At that point, I was 4 centimeters dilated after 50 hours.
Oh.
And I had been like, I think 2 centimeters dilated a week previously, because I was like, I feel like I'm ready for my baby. Check it. And they're like, you're barely ready. And so the fact, after like 50 hours of failed induced labor, I was 2 centimeters more dilated than I had been a week before. It's like, just give me my baby. um, so I had a C-section, and for the cancer that I had, that was thyroid cancer. And so I had a total neck dissection, which has a terrible name because the cancer had also spread to my lymph nodes. So that's when they take out your lymph nodes, they take out your thyroid. The great
Mhm.
thing is you can just go on medication. Um, that's the medication that you can't take with food
Mhm.
to repair the thyroid. But so I had surgery before, so I was basically like, that was surgery around my neck. Just give me my baby. I get a fun surprise instead of just not having cancer anymore. which is a big deal, but still. So the difference in the two surgeries was I was put under for the thyroid
Hmm.
removal. When you are getting a C-section, you aren't. And like, like that I get to see my baby right away and stuff, but also I could feel things. And I kept on telling them I could feel things, and they were like, we can't give you any more meds. I also was nauseous. And so they gave me onidestrin at a very high level because they gave me some and then I almost threw up again. And so they were like, okay, here's more. More on that later. um, so like saw Penny. I was really grateful that they flagged that sometimes babies don't cry right away because she didn't cry right away. And I was just like, okay, cry, okay, cry, okay, cry, okay, cry. And then she finally did. Um, I don't even remember if she cried before I saw her, but it was just, thank goodness. It took a while for me to still be on the table. Like I was on the table for less time before she was born than after. And it turns out that they're having trouble getting the placenta in, or the placenta out.
It
You
doesn't
don't want
out.
that in.
Yeah.
I was like, Cameron, my husband, and Penny, my baby, were already like removed from the operating room. And so it's just sort of laying there, knowing they were doing things, not knowing what they were doing, but thinking this is taking a long time. And so one of my friends is actually having surgery tomorrow, and I was like, "You're going under, right?" Because I was trying to stay calm. It was hard to stay calm in that moment. I'm glad I found out later. I had a really great surgeon, doctor. She was like the whole team was sort of like being light and like making some jokes, and like Penny had a like 99th percentile head, and so the doctor, she's very short. She was like, "Oh, you are so glad that this baby did not come out of you. Like, there would have been so much tearing, especially at 4 centimeters." So that was basically pregnancy until birth. Um, was there more of the question?
Um, well, they did get the whole placenta out, I'm assuming,
Yes.
in one shot because they can actually see what they're doing there. Because sometimes the placenta will grow into the wall of the uterus. Yeah, it's placenta accretia, and those end up being really ugly, and those end in a hysterectomy. So I just want to make sure that that's not where you ended up.
No, it was taken out.
Okay. Shoo,
So,
shoo, shoo. So placenta, it just took a while, but
yeah, they got it
placenta
out.
came out. Good,
I'm
good.
glad I didn't know that was a thing that could happen either.
Yeah, that one, talk about a traumatic birth. Those are really, really, really traumatic because if a woman delivers vaginally, then they have to go into the OR. It's an immediate hysterectomy because they're hemorrhaging. There's no way to get that placenta out. It's an immediate hysterectomy to save her life. But that's, the end of reproduction right then and there for her. So
I'm glad that didn't happen because I want
yes.
more babies.
Yes, good,
Or at least
good.
one more baby.
Yes. All right. So then uh, tell me about what happened postpartum.
After surgery, my oxygen was a little low. And I'm asthmatic. So they put me actually on like a breathing thing. And it was a while before I could hold Penny. Cameron was sitting like really close to me. I was having to like lay flat, and he was holding Penny, and I have some great pictures from then. And like he did skin to skin with her. And I didn't feel up to holding her.
Hmm.
I I wanted to, and I knew that like golden hour and everything, but I just wasn't there, and I still don't know why. And I think about that, and I still don't know why.
I had one of my births was a C-section as well, and it was hours before I was able to hold her.
I feel better.
Yeah, I mean, you went through one heck of a trauma. You went through 50 hours of labor that was going nowhere. You were sick. You had a C-section. that went longer than you were expecting as well. And they had, even though they weren't telling you, there were, some minor complications. There were some minor complications, and you personally have to recover from that. And you have to be prepared you know, to suddenly be mom. So, not your fault.
That makes me feel like a better mom because I was like, I don't want to hold my baby right away. I don't even think Cameron knows that. I didn't feel up to it. I have big boobs, and I know that it can be harder to breastfeed when you have big boobs. And they were trying to tell me to do the football hold, but I was worried that like my boob was going to suffocate her because it was like up in her nose.
Hmm.
Um, and so I was trying other holds. Like a lactation specialist had come, they'd like given me nipple shields, and like, but it was the wrong size and all sorts of things. And Kat, who's been on your show, was our lactation consultant. She had come to our house beforehand. We had talked about some stuff, and we had always planned for her to come when we were in the hospital. And so she came probably around like 24, 36 hours after birth, and Penny's arm was shaking as I was trying to feed her. And I said, I was like, do I need to be worried? Her arm is shaking. And she was like, she isn't getting any food. 24 to 36 hours later. And I had told the doctors, like, she seems to be sleeping so much. Like, I don't know if, like, I'm nervous. And they're like, oh, they sleep a lot in the first 24 hours. It's fine. And I knew that, but it seemed like too much. She didn't seem to be up long enough to be eating. Turns
Hmm.
out she wasn't.
Hmm.
Um, and so basically Kat was like, you gotta get her a pump, like, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And so like she went into full mode of being awesome. She already was, but like, pardon me. Um, I'm not wearing my glasses anymore. I can see without them. Um, it's easier to wipe the tears. We tried a lot of things. The pump from the hospital, the original one was from like the 70s. Because Kat saw it and she was just like, what is this thing? Um, and then next pump they gave us was from like early 2000s. And my daughter is 14 months old. This was in 2025. So, like, early 2000s is 25 years later. um, so I had gotten from insurance a wearable breast pump because like I knew that that would have lots of like flexibility and stuff, but Kat said that it wasn't good for getting your milk to come in. And so we placed like urgent order through Target, and like we brought that to the hospital because Kat said she was like, um, the wearable might have done a better job of bringing your milk in than the ancient things that they were trying to give me. Um, Kat came, I think, like 2 or 3 times when we were home. She had all these gizmos we were trying, and like there was one thing where it was like a syringe that you were like putting formula through, and like you were holding something on your nipple that like Penny could like, it was basically sort of like a nipple, but like on my breast, and that was magical. It was really hard to work. But like feeling Penny at my breast, there had been two things I'd been looking so forward to when I was pregnant. One was breastfeeding, and one was holding her after birth. And those two things got me through when like it did feel really hard and I was exhausted and I was
Hmm.
hurting and like my feet were so swollen. Oh my gosh. So that was magical, but it was a pain to work. And I remember at like 5 days. Kat was like, 7 to 10 days. That's when your milk is going to come in. And she came on day 10, and I'd been pumping like so much. And I was like, Kat, I've produced the most colostrum that I've ever produced, because I was getting like drops. I had like glistening drops. Like my boobs were more glistening, and there was like a little bit of colostrum that had like gone into the bump. But that was it. And I was so excited because it was like 3 times what it had been the previous 10 days. The cat was like, okay, so we need to talk about other things. And we'd already been supplementing with formula in bottles at this point because, again, my baby needed to eat.
Yeah. I mean, she got you for either formula or donor milk right in the hospital, correct?
We had
Just
formula
because
milk.
it's, yeah.
Yeah, our hospital only did donor milk if they were in the NICU.
Okay. Kat was the one who came into the hospital because you were seeing the lactation consultants that were already in the hospital.
And they were
Kat,
useless.
just to, yeah, to be clear, Kat didn't work in the hospital. She was, you know,
Correct.
coming in from outside.
Correct. Yeah.
So
Kat
yeah.
like came and visited us. Like we live like 40 minutes from where she is. So like she was working for us. Highly recommend Kat for anybody looking. When you get in the hospital, they ask like, what are your birth preferences? Like, do you want to do formula, breastfeeding? Do you want to do like C-section, natural, whatever? And I was like, I just want my baby, and I just want her to be happy and healthy. Happy and healthy baby was all I wanted.
Hmm.
And, but I was just like, whatever happens, happens.
Hmm.
And so, like, formula wasn't like devastating. It was more the fact I couldn't
Right.
breastfeed that was hard. And the fact that my boobs had changed during pregnancy, I was just like, what the actual heck?
Hmm.
Um, and Kat had told me when we were still pregnant that, like, the more um, interventions you have, the less likely you are to be able to breastfeed.
Hmm.
So, like, 3 or 4 different types of induced labor. The fact it was induced labor, the C-section, the placenta taking longer to come out. I had so many things against me. And, like, I'm so grateful for formula. One of the other things that the hospital staff talked about was like, you have to do the liquid formula, which, if you don't know, that's really expensive. And when you are planning on just like producing your baby's food and then you have to go to buying your baby's food,
Hmm.
that wasn't in our budget.
Hmm.
And I actually had had a friend who had had their baby like 5 weeks before Penny. Um, and she and I had had like a couple calls, and she had talked about like her journey. Um, because she wasn't able to breastfeed either. She just wasn't producing enough milk. She
Hmm.
was producing, but like not enough for her baby to eat properly. So they were like supplementing, and she was like pumping so much. And so she said she finally gave herself permission to stop. And that was really important for me. Um, and she talked about how like they had gotten the baby Brezza, the little baby espresso machine for milk, and how it was life changing, and so all these things. And so like Kat also expert in formula feeding, and so she was able to tell us like, you can just use the normal powder. You don't need to use the liquid. And like she told us like how long it would be okay for like the bottle to be room temperature, how long it would be okay for the bottle to be in the fridge, like after we made it, after her mouth had been on it, because there's sort of
Hmm.
different rules.
Yep.
Um, don't test me on it because I might not remember, even though she still has formula every once in a while. We smell it.
Although I'm sure if we checked research studies, there'd be variability in those anyway. So,
Yeah. So, like, so grateful for that. My friend had said that the baby Bertha was life changing. We got one. Agreed. Um, we never did it at the like hot temperature, and she drank cold milk too, straight out of the fridge. Because I had read that like if you gave your baby formula at different temperatures, then they'll, like, early on, they'll accept
They
it
get used
at
to,
any
yeah,
temperature,
yeah.
which so grateful for. It also is making the transition to cow's milk a lot easier. I posted on Facebook, which I think I've posted like 5 times in the last 5 years. I posted basically my breastfeeding journey when it was over, because it was only there for like 10 days. It was probably my longest post. It had a great picture of Penny. And I prefaced it with like, if you read nothing else, know my baby is happy and healthy and thriving. But I got so many comments from people who basically said, like, I had the same story. Like, you are strong, you are a warrior woman. Like, it is hard. And that other people didn't feel so alone too by seeing all the love that was there.
Yeah.
Oh, something else. I have bipolar, and it's type 2, the depressive one. I have asthma, thyroid stuff, and so I have lots of meds. And I had a lot of doctors tell me that I shouldn't get pregnant based on the meds that I was on for years. And so I found a psychiatrist who was a specialist in pre and postnatal.
Cool.
And but I mean, my mother-in-law found it because I came home from an OB/GYN meeting where the doctor's like, "Are you open to adoption?"
Oh, ouch.
Yeah. And so my mother-in-law found it, or found this doctor, and um, we like had a plan. We did like some blood work and stuff. And we like lowered my doses of stuff, but like didn't get me off of it because like if I was off my meds, I wasn't a stable human.
Yes.
And she said, the reason that I'm mentioning this now, she said that there would be a lower likelihood of postpartum depression if I stayed on my meds throughout the whole thing.
Yep.
Because like my hormones would be more balanced, like my body would be more used to the like dosages and stuff, and I wouldn't have to like titrate off, titrate on. And Penny might be healthier because I would be a more stable person when she was growing.
Yes. Yes.
And so even though like I also had so much stacked against me to get postpartum depression, I didn't.
Cool.
And
Cool.
part of that I would attest to my mother-in-law, who lives 11 minutes from us, and who took the first 2 weeks of Penny's life off to basically take care of us. So Cameron and I just got to take care of Penny. She figured out how to do bottles. She brought us all our meals, and like she was cleaning things, she was doing dishes, she was doing everything. Like we just got to be figuring out what our new family looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And she has stepped in many times when I've been like, I don't know what to do. Yesterday we had to take Penny to like an urgent doctor's appointment, and Cameron had the car. And so I called her up and I was like, can you get here now and take us to the doctor, please? Because I don't have a car seat. And so she zipped over, and Penny doesn't like the doctor because she knows that she gets shots there. And she was like helping keep Penny calm, and godsend. I wish all moms had a mother-in-law like I have, or mother, had support.
You had started to tell me about the conversation that you and Kat had at day 10.
She basically said like, let's talk about other things. So that's where we really got the deep dive in formula, figured out to get the like baby breath and stuff, and that's when I gave myself permission to stop
Mm-hmm.
trying. And like Penny was thriving, Penny was eating well, like it was more just one of those dreams I had had. One of those two dreams that I had had wasn't happening. My main dream was for a happy, healthy, thriving baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
have that.
Yeah.
And I have grandparents on standby to bring her up whenever is appropriate.
Oh, that's wonderful. Is there anything else you would want somebody to know?
No matter what's going on, you're not alone.
Hmm.
And there shouldn't be any shame.
Hmm.
Every journey is different, but every journey has commonalities. And like, even in the differences that are shared, like, so many of the things that happen to me might not happen to one person in fullness, but they've all happened to someone.
Hmm.
And especially in those early days, you don't know what you're doing, especially if it's your first baby.
Yeah, yeah.
And like, my husband had never held a baby before, he had never changed a diaper before. And like, I have six younger siblings, so I've done all of that. But it was magical watching him with her, especially in the early days when I wasn't feeling my best. Um, he melted. He kept on crying all the time of just like,
Oh.
she's so perfect. I'm so lucky.
Hmm.
The other thing that was medical that I'll throw out is I couldn't poop for 17 days.
Oh.
The onidestrin, which I've been on for migraines, always messes with my poop. It makes it really solid. And so the fact that I got two surgery table doses, that I couldn't poop until I had 4 days of laxatives. I was like, I got gloves, like surgical gloves. I was like having to extract it
Hmm.
because my stomach muscles just weren't working. That's the other thing I'll throw out of like, you're not alone if that's happened. It really
Yeah,
sucks.
yeah,
That was maybe the most uncomfortable part.
yeah. Now, did they have you on stool softeners and stuff right after
No,
delivery? No.
they had me on stool softeners, yes.
Okay. Okay.
And I still took
It
that,
still
but
wasn't
like,
enough. Yeah.
it did nothing.
Yeah.
Or at least it
Oh,
didn't
because
do
that's,
anything helpful.
oh, yeah. Well, the anesthesia and the meds they give you afterwards, that will stop you up
Yeah.
big time as well.
And they put me on anesthesia when they put the, like, a few hours after they put the balloon in, because they think they put it in wrong. And I was in so much pain. So that's probably part of the reason why it didn't dilate me anymore. I also had the best nurses. If you're
Good.
a good patient, they will try to handpick the next nurse for you. Um, and like, I remember when I got the epidural, it was painful. Um, and my nurse was just like, just hold me. And so I just, cause like, you're supposed to like basically go limp. And so I just like held her, and like, she was holding me so strongly, and like, I've never felt more supported from somebody who doesn't have a like direct investment in my life as I did in that moment. That was a lot of extra stuff.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, and women need to understand that when you go through labor, you go through delivery, you've just gone through a 9-month pregnancy, you've grown a human being. One way or another, it's been somewhat of a trauma typically to get that child out of your body, whether it was a vaginal birth or a C section. And a C section is not a walk in the park. A C section is major abdominal surgery. They cut through the skin, they cut in between the muscles, they cut through the uterus, they sew all these layers up again. And, if you were to go in now and have an abdominal surgery, yeah, you would need to recover and people would expect to support you and da 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 da. But you're given this human being that is, you know, okay, it's seconds old. Here you go. Now, you are now responsible for caring for this child on top of trying to recover, and your body's now trying to produce milk, and you're trying to manage all of this, and you're exhausted from the medication, you're exhausted from the labor, you're exhausted from either the C-section or the vaginal birth. Of course, you are going to be having difficulty afterwards, and you're expected to, immediately start breastfeeding and be in love with your baby, and sometimes that takes time to fall in love with the baby, and that's one thing that's not talked about. And so there's so many different layers of stuff that people just like immediately expect to happen that don't. And we need, as moms, to give ourselves some grace and understand that it's okay if I don't want to hold that baby yet. Or, I need time to process what just happened to me. And you don't even realize that you need time to process what just happened to me. You're just in shock. So, knowing to give yourself grace, and then going through a breastfeeding journey that isn't happening and you're struggling and struggling and struggling and struggling, to be able to give yourself permission to stop. And that is hard because you feel like you've failed. Some women feel like they failed because they weren't able to have a vaginal birth. Other women feel like they failed because they weren't able to produce milk at all or enough milk, and they have to supplement. And it's not a failure. It is not a failure. Uh, Make sure your baby's fed and growing. And it doesn't matter how that happens, whether it's donor milk or your own breast milk or formula. Is the baby fed? Um, then you've done your job.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I was very lucky for a lot of support. Um, when I made peace with the fact I wouldn't be breastfeeding,
hmm
um, I was seeing my therapist, I was seeing my psychiatrist because that was when I was most emotional. And everybody kept on telling me, like, you're not a failure, you're not a failure. And I was like, it's not that I feel like I failed, it's that that dream I had can't be
hmm
realized.
right.
And it was a dream I'd been carrying for 9 months with my daughter.
hmm
And like, I still look at my daughter sometimes. I'm like, yeah, this isn't temporary. Like, that was wild for me when she was first born. Of like, everyone else in my life, I've chosen. I have chosen after knowing them, like other than your
hmm
parents and your siblings and stuff. But like every other person in my life, I have chosen, like, yes, I choose you to be in my life forever.
hmm
And even your parents, your siblings, whatever, you can fall out. You don't have to like have a deep relationship with them. My daughter, I did. I was like stunned in the beginning of just like, I'm like, I love her. She's amazing. She was an easy baby. She's still a fairly easy baby. But it was just like, wait, you're mine forever? Like the whole like loving your baby instantly thing that you just said. Like I remember talking to one of my friends when I was in the hospital, and she's a great mom and she loves her baby so much. I was like, how long did it take you before it felt real? She's like, oh, a few days. And I talked to one of my other friends, and she was like, it took months. And like, I think that the whole, your journey is different,
hmm
and the feeling like a bad mom thing. I
hmm
still sometimes feel like a bad mom because I'm just like, this isn't temporary. It's not that I dislike you. It's just that, like, I haven't been in some trance or some dream for 14 months. This is real. Like, it felt more real when I was pregnant sometimes than it does with
Yeah.
her now, which I don't know what's going on with my brain there. But, like, I love her so much, and I am so grateful she's part of my life. It took a while to be okay with somebody new being part of my life
Yeah.
who, like, I chose, but I didn't know.
Right. Exactly. And that's something else you just don't typically hear, because it's like, oh, I have my baby, I'm immediately in love. It's like, yeah, but there's this human being, and I'm the eighth of nine kids, so I come from a really large family too. And I was babysitting I became an aunt at the age of 10. And so I was babysitting, I think, when I was 12 years old. And then after I had my daughter, it was like, okay, whose baby's this? I felt like I
Yeah.
needed to give the baby to somebody else because I don't have kids. And yeah, so, it takes a little while for your brain to kind of realize this is mine. And yeah, it is quite interesting to go through that psychological gymnastics, um, to for your brain to like really take in that this is mine, and to and for some people to fall in love. It wasn't instant for me. It probably took several weeks, but because I was having trouble getting out of the um, I'm just babysitting.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a real thing. I'm the oldest of the 7 kids, and so I like my youngest sibling is 20 years younger than me. And
Wow.
I remember going to his second birthday, being like, everybody's treating me like an adult. And I looked around and I was like, oh, most of the moms are my age. Cool, cool. If I had any advice to give to especially moms, especially postpartum, it's talk to a wide variety of people about what you're going through. Because, like, my mom instantly fell in love with me. My mom produced so much milk that, like, she fed me for 2 years. And when I told her I had stopped breastfeeding, she's like, well, did you have let down? I was like, I never had let up. Like, she was like, were you like leaking through or anything? I was like, no, I never leaked. And like my mom just like couldn't fathom my birth story in so many ways, and like
Hmm.
the days after.
Yeah.
Um, and like she was like, isn't motherhood the best? Like, isn't your baby perfect? And I was like, it's fine. Like, there are other things I like in my life better. And I'm not saying I don't like my daughter, but loving my daughter and loving motherhood, very different things.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I'm really grateful that I have a husband who, A, loves being a dad, loves it. And I love watching it. But B, who's supportive of where I am at and who
Hmm.
I feel safe telling I'm stuck with her for the next 17 years. And she's a great baby.
Hmm.
It's more just like, yeah, you're in my life forever now. And like, you're really in my life for right now.
Hmm.
Have a good village
Yeah.
and expand your village. When I was pregnant, was like, I need to have more support from the people who I really love. So I need to be there for them.
Hmm.
If I'm going to ask them to be there for me, I need to be there for them because I'm very antisocial. And so I like COVID gave me permission to be antisocial. And so I was like, no, I need to reconnect. And I'm so glad I did because it's also bringing more people into Penny's life who
Hmm.
I love and who love me and who now love her.
That is great, great, great advice, Kate. Thank you very, very much for sharing your story with us. And I hope that you know, anyone out there listening to this is able to get something out of, what you were able to share with us.
Thank you. Do you want to meet Penny?
Yes, yes.
Whee! This is Penny, everybody.
Hi, Penny. Hi, sweetie.
You love my big screen.
Oh, I see both you and Cam in her.
Yeah, she especially looks like Cameron.
Yeah.
I I joined a like remote call with my colleagues in the early days of her being born because I was like, "Don't you want to meet Penny?" And one of my coworkers was like, "That's Cam's baby. That's Cam's baby." I was like, "Were you worried?" um, but she is very much Cam's baby. Oh, you're a good baby. I've been talking about you. Oh,
Thank you so much for joining us on the postpartum years. We'll see you next time.
thank you so much,
Bye.
Marilyn.